uh, let's discuss some of the things. The poem by Adrienne Rich and stanza 1 says, Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across the screen, bright to pass denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree, they pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. Okay, so what is this sleek, chivalric certainty? Who would respond? Batao? You will have to speak out your name because I can't see you people while I'm presenting my screen. What do you understand by sleek, chivalric certainty?
Ma'am, may I tell?
Yes, Malvika.
Ma'am, sleek chivalric certainty means their tigers are moving in a very elegant, brave, and confident manner, and
Yes.
they do not fear of the men.
They do not fear the men who are under the tree. And what is the poetic device used in the last line? Somebody else apart from Malvika. Poetic device in the last line. Hurry up.
Alliteration, ma'am.
Yes, it is alliteration. It is chivalric certainty. And in the first stanza, the poet has introduced the first character. Who's the first character? We see the protagonist, Aunt Jennifer. To the readers, she is introduced as Aunt. And why is she introduced as Aunt? So that the reader feels connected to her. ठीक है आप ऐसा लगता है कि आप ही के कोई रिलेशन में है. So that is why the poet has used aunt to refer to her. Okay, and she is expressing her suppressed feelings through her art. She is the victim of male dominant society, and there's a word for this where we give more importance to the views of males. What is that word?
Chauvinist, patriarchal.
It is patriarchal, but then male dominant is
Male chauvinism.
yes, I'm talking about the opinions and views, so it is male chauvinism. Okay, they consider themselves to be far superior to women. She has no one to tell her mental and physical pain, and she embroiders a picture on a piece of cloth to convey her deep feelings. The speaker describes, who is the speaker here? The speaker is the who is the speaker? The speaker is not the aunt. Who's the speaker?
Ma'am, the
I'm the
poet.
poet.
Yes, it describes the tigers which are aren't embroidered on the panel and they are set in motion. They are moving quickly by raising the front legs and jumping forwards on the back legs. They're shining brightly, so that is why, like a topaz, a yellow colored semi precious stone it is in the green jungle. Bright here signifies their powerful and radiant persona. So, bright can mean radiant and powerful, and they look free, they look brave, fearless, and magnificent. There are men sitting under the tree, but the tigers do not fear them. There is a sense of certainty. They are sure about themselves, and they are confident as they move. So this was the first stanza. It's a small poem, so we are revising it entirely. ठीक है मैं आपको stanza वाइज सारा ही करवा रही हूँ कि छोटी सी poem है. Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hands. पोएटिक डिवाइसेस जो है आपके सिंबोलिज्म एंड ऑल वो एक इसकी अलग कंटेंट है वो अलग से शेयर करूंगी मैं ठीक है अभी यहाँ पे पोएटिक डिवाइसेस नहीं हो रहे वी जस्ट डूइंग द एक्सप्लेनेशन पार्ट सो इन दिस सेंस इट इज रिवील्ड दैट Aunt Jennifer is feeble, weak and enslaved. Which are the lines that tell you that she is feeble, weak and enslaved? How do you know that she's feeble or weak or enslaved?
Because he cannot even hold a ivory needle, because ivory needle is very light in weight. Still,
Yes.
she feels like it is very heavy
It is
and
very
it
hard to
feels
pull. Yes. So
like
very
a
much,
burden too.
and this is very much opposite of the tigers that she was embroidering. So the creations of hers are totally opposite to her own character, her own nature. Okay, the tigers are her creation, but she has shown them to be very brave, chivalric, certain. But totally opposite to her is Aunt Jennifer herself. Her physical and mental trauma is depicted in the line. Find even the ivory needle hard to pull. What do you understand by trauma? What is trauma?
Shock.
Hmm?
Shock, ma'am.
Yes, a kind of a shock. She's going through a kind of a torture. So she finds even the ivory needle hard to pull, even though a wedding ring doesn't weigh much. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. What does this signify? It signifies the amount of dominance her husband exercised over her. Okay, so as it is, we have already discussed that it's a male. She's living in a male-dominant society. Her husband is a domineering one, and she is a submissive character. This also means that her inner free spirit has been jailed by the patriarchal society. Though she is embroidering, which may be her favorite pastime, but still she's constantly scared of her husband, and that is why her fingers are fluttering. Okay, and then the next stanza says, "When aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by, and the tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid." So the last stanza says that even her death would not be able to free her from the ordeals. What are ordeals? What do you understand by ordeals?
The unpleasant moments.
The
Ma'am,
unpleasant
the
situations,
difficult
moments, the
tasks.
difficulties, okay, she has gone through over the years. Though her trembling hands would still would lie still after the death, which can be seen in when aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. She expresses her wish to lead a free and fearless life, but she's overpowered by the dominance of her husband, and even after her death, it appears as if she would not be able to free herself from the chains of patriarchy, from the chains, from the shackles that she's bound with. But her artwork, which was her escape route, so this shows her escapist tendency through her art. She's trying to escape from a situation, or in a way, her inner sense of freedom will stay forever proud and unafraid. Okay, so this was the explanation. Let's do some of the literary devices. Okay, let's discuss some of the literary devices.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it's Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, symbols. Okay, symbolism is an important aspect of poetry. You have imagery, you have symbolism, and they are very often used in different homes. Okay, so tigers, what are they symbolic of? They symbolize the freedom and confidence that seem unattainable. What do you understand by unattainable, Bache? What is unattainable?
The
That it cannot be achieved by the aunt. She
Right.
could not receive
She
the
cannot achieve it.
freedom.
So something which cannot be attained, something which cannot be achieved. To Aunt Jennifer in her real life. While the tigers are vibrant, what is vibrant?
bright color.
Very bright and radiant and bold, described with powerful active verbs like prance and pace. Aunt Jennifer, she herself is too weak even to handle her needle. So she is described as a very weak and feeble lady who finds even the ivory needle hard to pull. While the tigers live freely in a beautiful world of green, Aunt Jennifer is stuck being a homemaker. While the tigers do not fear the men, but Aunt Jennifer is scared of her husband. So this is symbolism. And her innermost desires for freedom is thus expressed through the tigers. They are what are they symbols of? The symbols of liberated, joyous state of being of Aunt Jennifer. She wants to achieve that state, but she's not able to because she leads a suppressed life and she's totally in fear of her dreadful husband. The tigers represent not only a freedom from man-made constraints like marriage, matrimony, in the freedom in the tangible world, but also they represent a unique freedom that no man or woman can hope to attain. That is a freedom from death itself. So the final line emphasizes that tigers will go on even when aunt is dead. So what does this mean? Since the tigers are inanimate, they are captured with the tapestry, they can theoretically exist. Theoretically, not actually. Tigers are not immortal, but theoretically because they are aunt's creation, they are made, they are embroidered, so they will exist forever. Okay, but only theoretically. And as a symbol of immortality, immortality in what sense? How has the poet used this immortality here? Are the tigers immortal?
The creation of aunt on the panel, those tigers
Yes,
are
the
immortal because
art is
they are
immortal. Her
captured.
art is immortal. They highlight the fact that even men who might try to rule the world through the patriarchal institutions like marriage are not all powerful. They are all fallible, and none of them will exist forever. None of them here refers to the men. They are not going to exist forever. Okay. Then the tree. So here, first symbol was of the tigers. Okay. Second symbol is of the tree. The tree in line 3. Can anyone just read out line 3?
They do not fear the men
Yes, they
beneath
do
the
not fear
tree.
the men beneath the tree. So the tree in line 3, it can be seen to symbolize one of two things. One reading of the tree can see it simply as a symbol of the natural world. So one meaning, one is simply symbol of the natural world because they are part of nature. This single tree is a small representation of the larger forest, the world of green. World of green, you understand? The world of the forest that the tigers presumably inhabit, and tigers are naturally the inhabitants of forests. The men refer to might in this case be hunters. ठीक है, men beneath the tree किसको रेफर कर सकते हैं? मे बी दी हंटर्स. ठीक है, ऐसे तो नहीं कोई जंगलों में जाके पेड़ के नीचे जाके बैठ जाता है. सो मे बी they are referring to the hunters here. Positioning the men beneath the tree suggests a power hierarchy, namely that the natural world will always prevail over the machinations of men. What does the poet mean by this? अब यहाँ पे जब वो बोल रहा है they do not fear the men beneath the tree, एक literal meaning से इसका ज्यादा मतलब है. वो मतलब क्या है इसका? That when the poet is just when Edwin Rich is just saying that they do not fear the men beneath the tree. She's not just referring to the hunters, but she is hinting at something greater than that, something beyond that, and that thing is the natural world will always prevail over men. Okay, natural world always is on a higher pedestal than the human beings. Got it? इस लाइन का मतलब समझ में आ गया आपको सबको? Have you followed this?
हमें एक और बार
Yes,
बता
ma'am.
दो.
हाँ, but is symbolism is not something which you can just understand by literally reading the line. ठीक है, symbolic का थोड़ा in depth meaning होता है. और यहाँ पे मतलब क्या हो सकता है कि when the poet is saying they do not fear the men beneath the tree, he is not just referring to the tigers, okay, that they do not fear the hunters, but symbolically the poet is hinting at the fact that the nature is always at a higher pedestal than the human beings. Okay, so that is why this reference is of the
Thank you, ma'am.
is to the tree as well. Indeed, certain species of animals and trees live much longer than humans. ये आपको पता ही है. ठीक है? This reading lies in with the view that tigers is a symbol of freedom from the mortal world. Since the tigers are technically inanimate. Inanimate क्यों है यहाँ पे? आपको पता ही है because they are the work of art. ठीक है, यहाँ पे inanimate है, they are not the real tigers, but they are the work of art. So they are captured as part of an artwork that literally cannot die. So it's art, so therefore it will not die, and they will outlive Aunt Jennifer. The tigers are going to outlive Uncle. They are going to outlive any human institution like marriage. ओके, क्योंकि वो इनएनिमेट है, क्योंकि वो वर्क ऑफ आर्ट है, एंड वर्क ऑफ आर्ट इज ऑलवेज इटर्नल, एवरलास्टिंग. इट इज नॉट लाइक वी इमॉर्टल बीइंग्स. गॉट इट? ये समझ आ गया आपको? यस और नो?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, another reading of the tree is that it is a reference to the tree as in. It is an allusion to the biblical tree of knowledge of good and evil. अगर आप ये याद रख सकते हो तो ये भी आप लाइन इसमें लिख सकते हो कि यहाँ पे biblical reference भी है, reference to Bible, and the reference is to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If you can remember it, you can write it. So he is referring to this also. Is making making a reference to Bible too, or otherwise you can just give those two meanings. Okay, एक तो natural world है and then the world of art. Okay. In Genesis, when Eve, अब ये यहाँ पे बता रहे हैं ये बाइबल पे रेफरेंस कैसे है. ठीक है, this is the explanation of that. In Genesis, when Eve ate fruit from the tree at the urging of the serpent, the fall of man resulted. Human beings were cast out of paradise, and shame and sin were introduced in the world. Eve was subsequently marked as weak, since she gave into the serpent's temptations, whereas Adam did not. At the same time, the biblical tree is associated with free will and deviation from a higher power. Thinking of the tree as a symbol of the tree of knowledge thus speaks to the theme of female subordination with traditional male-female relationships like marriage. Whereas in her real life, Aunt Jennifer is treated as subservient. What do you understand by subservient? Subservient का मतलब क्या होता है?
Quite ready to obey others, like
Yes.
quite ready to obey others.
Yes, subordinate. So she is submissive. She subordinates to her husband. In the tapestry, it is the men who are beneath, subservient to the tree and to the tigers that Jennifer has created. अब यहाँ पे मतलब क्या है? What is Ronak getting dominated by husband? Yes, Ronak, you're right. यहाँ पे सबका ये biblical reference का मतलब बता सकता है क्या मतलब है यहाँ पे? कहना क्या चाह रहा है यहाँ पे? Can you just explain this? It is very simple, not very difficult. Just read it once and try and understand it. ठीक है? यहाँ पे है reference to the biblical tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay? And then read this and try and explain this. से पढ़ो. First of all, explain this. Reference to Adam and Eve. Why was Eve marked as weak? Because she was the one who gave into the serpent's temptations and she ate the fruit, whereas Adam did not. And this is related. This has been related to our matrimony also, where a female is considered as subservient to the male partner. Okay? And then at the same time, the biblical tree is associated, ये जो मैंने बताया आपको, symbol of tree of knowledge. So it speaks to the theme of female subordination with traditional male-female relation. Female subordination. So the female is subservient, she is subordinate to the male partner. Whereas in her और real life में हम देख रहे हैं कि Aunt Jennifer is treated as subservient or subordinate to her husband. मगर हम अगर उसकी art देखें, so who is subservient to nature? If we look at the art created by Aunt Jennifer, then who is considered as subservient to nature?
Ma'am, the men, the hunter.
Yes, the hunters, the men. So the men here are considered subservient because they are beneath the tree. So this means they are subordinate to the nature and the tigers that Jennifer has created, because the tigers do not fear the men. Okay, got it? So that means nature is all powerful and it is much at a much higher pedestal than mortal human beings. Okay. Then symbolism is in the wedding band. The wedding band is a symbol of the institution of marriage, and it speaks about the poem's broader thematic ideas surrounding marriage, surrounding gender and power. The depiction of the ring as burdensome. What does this speak about? It speaks about power dynamics of a traditional marriage which serves to oppress women. So she's taking that wedding band as something which is very heavy, so that it appears as if it serves to just oppress the females, the women. The way the band is described in line 7 and 8. What is line 7 and 8? Pado? How is the band described? Read out line 7 and 8.
Ma'am, the massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's
hand. So band is described as sitting heavily on Aunt Jennifer's hand, as if it is weighing her down. जैसे वो पूरा ही उसको बिल्कुल क्या कर रहा है, suppress कर रहा है. It's also attributed with a massive weight, a bit of hyperbole. What do you understand by hyperbole? Hyperbole is another poetic device, and what is this? Hyperbole क्या होता है बच्चे? It's a kind of
hyperbole here means that जैसे ivory needle, it is in reality very light, yes, but Aunt Jennifer feels it like it is very heavy.
So and this is kind of an exaggeration. Okay, hyperbole is kind of an exaggeration. So it's also attributed with massive weight, a bit of hyperbole, a bit of an exaggeration that confirms the reader's suspicion that it is not the ring itself that burdens Aunt Jennifer. बेटा ring कभी इतनी heavy नहीं हो सकती है. Okay, that it is sitting heavily on her hand, but what the ring represents. So what is the ring representing? Ring is it is a symbol of her marriage. It is representing her marriage. So it is the burden of marriage, it is the burden of matrimony, the difficulties that she has to face, the ordeals that she's mastered by. So it is representing that, not the ring in itself. It is not heavy as such. Okay. And the fact that it is uncle's wedding band, it affirms this interpretation. So it is confirming that interpretation that the wedding band is given by her uncle. Therefore, she is totally subjected to what? Dominance by the uncle, making it clear that the man holds the power in the relationship, leaving Aunt Jennifer in the subservient role, as if she is there only to obey his orders. The reference to the symbol of the wedding band in lines 9 and 10 further supports this view. And line 10 में 9, 10 और 9, 9 और 10 में क्या है? She is ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. It is a nod. It is a nod. What do you mean by it is a nod to the previously mentioned ring? Nod का मतलब क्या है यहाँ? What do you understand by it is a nod to the previously mentioned ring? बोलो. जब आप किसी बात को मानते हो, then you give a nod, अपना सिर हिलाते हो ना ऐसे. So it is confirming the idea of the previously mentioned ring as well. The use of the word mastered in this instance again paints a picture of Aunt Jennifer as being in the subservient role. मतलब कि वो एक slave की तरह है. That she is slave to the master. And who is the master here? Her husband, uncle. ठीक है? ये समझ आ गया आपको? बोलो.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, another device. The tigers are personified throughout the poem. When they are described as being proud, when they are described as confident and unafraid of men. These qualities, they just differentiate the tigers from the fearful and timid Aunt Jennifer. तो उसने अपने कैरेक्टर से बिल्कुल ऑपोजिट बनाए हैं टाइगर्स, ठीक है? बिकॉज वो चाहती है कि उसकी लाइफ ऐसा हो, बट शी नॉट एबल टू अचीव इट, नॉट इवन आफ्टर हर डेथ. बट शी हैज दिस एस्केपिस्ट टेंडेंसी, एस्केप रूट है उसके मन में, और वो इसीलिए टाइगर्स को इस तरह से उसने बनाया है. द मोस्ट स्ट्राइकिंग इंस्टेंस ऑफ personification, however, is when they are referred to as chivalric. The term chivalrous, it is traditionally associated with medieval knights who were expected to adhere to a strict moral code known as chivalry. Such men might be described as chivalric or chivalrous. In modern usage, chivalry is typically used to describe courteous treatment towards women. ठीक है? अगर आज हम बोले that this person is particularly very chivalrous or he is chivalric, that means he is very polite and he is very courteous and humble towards while he is talking or while he is treating any lady. Okay, it is unusual to apply this term to an animal. How can you apply this term chivalry or chivalrous to an animal like a tiger? And in doing so, the poem totally associates the tigers with male figures. So the tigers are here personified. Their bravery, their confidence, it is thus aligned with masculinity. That is, being certain and proud is directly linked to a specific idea of manhood. ठीक है? अगर हम ये बता रहे हैं the pace in sleek chivalric certainty, so उसका लिंक किससे है? To the idea of manhood. This further highlights the contrast between the animals and Aunt Jennifer herself. ये हम पहले भी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. The fearful woman depicted engaging in a traditionally female pastime of needlework. ठीक है? Stuck in a patriarchal institution that dehumanizes her. How does it dehumanize her? By positioning her as an object to be owned. And this institution oppresses her as well. She's unable to share the same pride. She's unable to share the bravery of the tigers. She can't prance in the same carefree way that they do, nor can she share their lack of fear in the face of men. Okay, so we have done personification. What else have we discussed today? Symbolism, personification, और क्या अभी? हाइपरबोल तो हो गया, और सिंबोलिज्म किस किस में किया आपने? वेडिंग बैंड, ट्री एंड tigers. ठीक है? I'll share it in your class groups also if you have not shared these so far. एक बार आप पढ़ भी लेना इनको, अच्छी तरह से और समझ में आता है. Then imagery. The main images are of Aunt Jennifer as a fearful wife, and secondly, the magnificent tigers she creates in her panel. तो अगर आप ये देखते हो, इमेजरी क्या होती है? जब आप कोई चीज पढ़ो, आपके माइंड में कोई इमेज बन जाए. तो the moment you read about Aunt Jennifer, the lines about her, they all depict her as a fearful lady. And secondly, when you read about magnificent tigers, आप सोचते हो वो कितने आराम से घूम रहे हैं, they are so proud and so grand and majestic in their pace. So images of precious substances run through the poem. और कौन से images हैं यहाँ पे? Like topaz, the stone, the precious stone, ivory, and the gold of the wedding band. And then we have another device, another literary device, which is metaphor. Metaphor सबको पता है. The poet compares the yellow stripes of the tigers to a precious stone, topaz. यहाँ पे direct comparison नहीं है. Bright topaz, denizens of a world of green. यहाँ पे हमने कोई like और as word नहीं use किया, but comparison is still there. So it is implied and it is understood. So it's a metaphor. Hyperbole we've already discussed. Exaggeration. The poet exaggerates the weight of Aunt Jennifer's husband's wedding ring to make a point about why is he exaggerating it? Because he's not saying that the ring is very heavy. He's not saying that he's referring to what the ring represents, what the wedding band represents, and the wedding band is representing marriage. And in that marriage, who is the one who is dominating or domineering? It is the uncle, not the aunt. Okay, got it? ये सब समझ आ गए बच्चे आपको? Have you all followed this?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
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 Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's stop sharing this and do some extra questions. It is a 1951 poem by American poet Dream Rich. It appeared in her first published book of poems, A Change of World, told from the perspective. What is perspective, bache? What is perspective?
Ma'am, viewpoint. Like
Yes,
viewpoint.
from the point of view of an anonymous speaker, the poem describes a woman, Aunt Jennifer, who just crafts vibrant tapestry panels depicting tigers to escape, mentally at least, from a burdensome marriage. मतलब वो physically तो नहीं इससे निकल सकती है, but mentally at least she can escape from a burdensome marriage through her art. The poet describes the oppressed condition of women by males and their dominance in society. She has tried to explore the inner feelings of a woman who is living under the dominance of men. Summary, there's no need to do it. हम कर चुके हैं. Summary पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. I will send it to you. You can read it yourself. Okay. Then themes are marriage, gender, and power. In Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, a woman referred to as aunt uses embroidery as a creative outlet while living and eventually dying in an unhappy marriage. And it describes the terrified Aunt Jennifer's fear-filled existence in a marriage full of ordeals, in which she is ruled over by her husband, referred to simply as uncle. Aunt Jennifer is trapped in a difficult marriage to a man who just terrifies her, oppresses her, suppresses her. Her fear is first of all hinted at by the contrasting imagery of the tigers in the tapestries she creates, which are unafraid of the men beneath the tree and herself. This could refer to hunters in a forest out to kill the tigers. But the poem suggests that the tigers are well equipped to take on these men, and such they have no reason to be afraid. Something that is certainly not at all the case with Aunt Jennifer herself. The animals are described specifically as chivalric. This is an old term, we've discussed it already. Chivalric certainly refers to the bravery and pride. These are referring to the masculinity, actually. This in turn suggests that such bravery or prance is simply not possible for Aunt Jennifer, who is a woman living in a patriarchal world. That is a world in which who holds most of the power? It is the men. Thus, even as the tigers do not fear the men beneath the tree, Aunt Jennifer is not just fearful. सिर्फ घबरा नहीं रही है, but she's shocked, she's terrified of her husband, and this fear infuses every part of her life. It's a part of her existence, this fear. She cannot escape from it. In the second stanza, her fingers are described as fluttering, suggesting anxiety and nervousness. The hints of anxiety depicted in the second stanza, they escalate. What do you understand by escalate? What is escalate?
Rise up.
बोलो अबे.
Rise up.
Rise up. They keep on the hints of anxiety depicted in the second stanza. It just escalates. बढ़ रही है वो until in the third stanza. Aunt Jennifer's hands are described outright as terrified. The source of Aunt Jennifer's fear is clearly, what is the source of her fear? The husband, her marriage, which is presented as an oppressive institution within which she is trapped. The nervousness of Aunt Jennifer's hands is directly linked to the massive weight of Uncle's wedding band, a symbolic representation of how stifling and burdensome this marriage is. What is stifling? स्टाइफलिंग का मतलब क्या है कि जैसे उसमें आंट जेनिफर का दम घुट रहा है. Aunt Jennifer's fingers are further portrayed as weak, finding even the ivory needle hard to pull against the weight of this ring. This reflects again the oppressive nature of Aunt Jennifer's fear, which leaves her immobilized. Which immobilized, जैसे वो movement भी proper नहीं कर पा रही है, which leaves her weak, feeble, unable to stand up to uncle. She's not able to stand up to uncle means she's not able to retaliate. She's not able to confront her husband, and she's just submissive. And the psychological weight of Aunt Jennifer's marriage stems from the dynamic inherent to traditional marriage. Traditional marriage में क्या समझा जाता है? In which men always dominate their wives. The ring is also associated with ordeals that Aunt Jennifer was mastered by. ये वो तो पता ही है आपको. ring के बारे में तो हमने इतना पढ़ लिया. And the use of mastered means that husband is the master and she is the slave. Okay, master-slave relationship है उनका. In fact, it is uncle's wedding band and not Aunt Jennifer's again affirms uncle's dominance in this relationship. ठीक है, ये ऐसा क्यों कहा गया uncle's wedding band? ये भी इस चीज का symbolic है that it refers to the dominance of uncle. Why do we refer to as wedding band as uncles? बहन तो aunt रही है तो वो uncle's wedding band किसकी तरफ इशारा कर रहा है? Again towards dominance of uncle in the relationship. It is his wedding band, not her own, that weighs her down. Uncle owns the wedding band, and in a way he also owns Aunt Jennifer. He is her master, reflecting the reality that a woman in marriage is traditionally considered as the property of her husband. Okay? In the early 1950s, a woman like Aunt Jennifer would have been expected to marry a man and stay home to take care of the household. Not only would divorce be considered socially unacceptable, Aunt Jennifer would have limited options to support herself financially outside of her marriage. Okay, divorce तो बहुत दूर की बात है और अगर अपने financially independent भी वो नहीं सोच सकती थी बनाने का अपना. So therefore she is trapped in her marriage, and her seemingly hopeless state is contrasted by the freedom of the tigers. Okay, creative expression and personal freedom. The unnamed speaker of the book describes the life of Aunt Jennifer, a woman who cannot escape her subservient rule. So it's the same thing again and again. So I'll send it and you can read it on. Okay, it is the same thing and we've discussed it at length. Okay, ये कोई चीज है बार-बार आ रही है. Let's discuss some of the questions now. First stanza, Aunt Jennifer's tigers are actually. Give the answer.
C option, embroidered.
C, ma'am.
Embroidered tigers.
The poet describes the color of the tigers as
Topaz.
Topaz.
the denizens of a world of green means
Residents of forest.
yes,
Residents of
forest.
forest.
The tigers are not afraid of
The men.
the men. Next, what is Aunt Jennifer doing with the wool?
Embroidering of
Yes,
D.
on the panel.
embroidering a wall panel.
ठीक है. What do her fluttering fingers find hard to?
To pull the
To pull he
A.
ivory needle.
To pull the
A
आना
option.
चाहिए यहाँ पे. ठीक है. Team is missing. To pull the ivory. ठीक है. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band is a subtle reference to what does it refer to? Speak up.
Suppression at the hands of her
Suppression
husband.
at the hands of her husband. The literary device used in fingers fluttering, you know it. It is alliteration.
Alliteration.
When aunt is dead, her ordeals refer to happy times, hardships, joy, offerings. What are ordeals?
Hardship.
Hardships.
Still ringed means
Operation will continue.
operation is going to continue. Proud and unafraid are the adjectives used for
The tigers of the in the forest.
Ma'am, the
In
males
the
in the
on the
society.
panel.
decide karo.
Ma'am,
Sorry, the tigers on the panel.
The
Tigers on the panel.
D
Yes.
option.
Yes. Will go on prancing means
The spirit
The
of
spirit of
freedom of
freedom
the
will
the
tigers will
spirit of freedom of
continue.
the tigers will continue. Answer the following. What do the following symbolize in the poem? The tree. Tree किसका symbol अभी हमने इतनी बार discuss किया बताओ जी. Yes. Speak up. जल्दी बताना है क्योंकि ये मीटिंग खत्म होने वाली है. I've got this.
World of
हाँ जी.
world of art, beauty of nature,
Biblical.
and biblical.
Yes, very good. And if it comes as a long answer question, you can just elaborate the three. Very good. Next is tigers. Tigers are symbolic of what? Tigers का भी हमने किया है.
Courage,
They are a
bravery,
symbol of freedom,
freedom.
bravery, and elegancy.
ठीक है. ये 30 to 40 words है तो ये तो 2-3 lines में आप कर सकते हो. But if it comes like a long answer question, then you need to elaborate it. Okay. Wedding band.
The suppression.
ठीक है. And why do you think Aunt Jennifer created animals that were so different from her own character?
Because she wanted to escape from the
the
Shows,
realities of
ma'am,
the
her
world.
escapist tendency.
Okay. Anything else which anybody wants to add on?
Ma'am, because through art, it also signifies the importance of art, because a person can die but an art will continue.
Yes.
So
Art is immortal. It is everlasting. So yes. Okay, good. Next, Aunt Jennifer's efforts to get rid of her fear proved to be futile. How do you know that the efforts, whatever efforts she made, the escape route that she resorted to, but all the efforts proved to be futile? Comment on this. You know?
ma'am, because she was still living in a quite suppressed society where her voice will not be heard, and she's so timid and feeble that even after creating the artwork, there is no effect on her personality. It is the
Yes.
same as it
As
was
it was in the
used to.
beginning, and then you
So
can also mention
yes.
even after her death, she would not be able to escape from this. Okay, why did Aunt Jennifer find needle ivory needle hard to pull? This everybody can do. What is suggested by the image of massive weight of uncle's wedding band? ठीक है, ये हमने अभी किया है discuss. You can do it. कर सकते हो ना ये तो अभी discuss किया है हमने
Yes,
massive
ma'am.
weight of uncle.
Yes,
What is the
ma'am.
predominant theme in the poem? Predominant main theme क्या है?
male chauvinism.
Ma'am, that
उसको आपने
how
describe कर देना है. ठीक है?
female is
What will
suppressed.
happen to Aunt Jennifer's tigers when she's dead?
Ma'am, the tigers
They
will
will
be
keep on
free
prancing.
and they will go on prancing, but
Yes. Because these are the tigers created by her are inanimate, so they will last forever because they are the work of art. Okay, so I think that is all for today. If there's any confusion, you can ask me, and if I'm not able to take your attendance, you can just send me your roll numbers on my number, and please fill in that Google form C2 section students.
ma'am, roll number